And the whole history of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real, right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We just killed each other, right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants, who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up. And the whole history of America is...
Shalom, Yasha'Allah. First and foremost, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, HaKadosh. Double honors to the beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. This is your brother Mar from the GMS Boise, Idaho camp. And I wanted to do this lesson just because it caught my attention. You know, as you know, brothers are always looking at information online, you know, where to get a gold nugget from, where to take the meat in and spit out the bones. Well, I saw this video and it just made me think, man, Jake don't listen to anything unless a white man in a suit say it. So here you go. You know, the so-called white man is created. You know, everybody goes by their biblical nationalities. There's no such thing as white man. There's no such thing as a black man. There's no such thing as a yellow man. There's no such thing as a red man. You know, other than Esau, Edom being, you know, and I say red man because that's what Esau calls, you know, the Native Americans, which are known as the Gadites in the scriptures, and the Reubenites. But back to the point that red man is description of only one person, and that is somebody who is lacking pigment, not white. They're red people. And the red people are referring to the self-proclaimed white people, Caucasians, which in the scriptures and biblical nationalities are called Edomites. You know, so this man made, you know, some really good points. You know, hey, who knows? This guy right here could be a Jake. But that's even too deep for a lot of people. That this man that you're looking at could be an Israelite. Again, you have to look at everything spiritually. You know, so understand that when he said that the English hated the Irish because the Irish were Jake. And a lot of the English hated the Spaniard, the French hated the Spaniards because a lot of the Spanish, one of the last strongholds of the Israelites, that were calling themselves the Moors, was in Granada, which is Spain. So again, the last stronghold in Granada, right there, Spain, man. So there's a reason why there was these other so-called European countries that hated other Europeans. It wasn't white people hating white people. It was European Edomite transplants that took over Jake's culture during the Renaissance. And the last little bit of Jakes that still had their nationality, claiming the people of their tribe, you know, by not being an Edomite, not being a wild man. Because Esau came out the caves, man, being a wild man. Well, Lord willing, we'll go to Job 20 because Esau, Edom is... And the so-called white man, let me say this, the so-called white man is a newly created creature. But Esau, Edom, has always been around, you know, and I say that because that's what most people know. Because there's never been an ancient race of white people. No, there's only been Edomites, Ishmaelites, Elamites, Israelites, Moabites, Ammonites, you know, the Hagarians, on and on and on and on. It goes into the different nations. There's 18 nations, you know, and brothers can, you know, I should have had a table of nations, but, you know, not to get too off point. This man just says everything that the elders and apostles and the scriptures have been saying. Because if people think that, you know, Esau's pseudoscience, falsely so-called, Pseudoscience means theories, tests. Nothing is a definitive with this man. And that's why scriptures say, let your yeses be yeses and your noes be noes. Esau Edom changing his nationality, is just him trying to hide from the crimes that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to judge this man for. So I wanted to go straight into the scriptures. I wanted to show that video, and I don't want to make this lesson too long because I get into, rambling. But hey, man, the Lord is going to have it out for Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, no matter what you call yourself, whether you call yourself Swedish, Danish, French, oh, I'm Spaniard. Oh, I'm European because I'm Spaniard. We speak the proper Spanish. My ass, man. No one speaks a proper language. Even English is a mixture of all different types of languages. So that's why, man, Esau Edom has confused the world. Like scriptures say, the author of confusion. But Salaki, I'm going to get into Ezekiel 25. And I'm going to go straight to the point in verse 12. Here we go. This is, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, or the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai power, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended, and revenged himself upon them. And we understand exactly that Judah, the southern kingdom, mainly the head tribe, Judah, got it the absolute worst in slavery, had their women turn against them in the worst way out of all the tribes, had their children grow into the biggest of demons, the super gremlins, man. The other tribes go through it, man. They got to deal with Jamaicans. They got to deal with the Bati boyism. If your son's a Mo, if your son's effeminate, he's into gangs, he's into drugs, he's so much into the Christian church, whatever it is. That's what the Northern Kingdom got to deal with. But man, the Southern Kingdom got to deal with fucking YNs. They got to deal with super gremlins. They got to deal with the most maximum pressure from the curses. That's why their women don't even have hair, man. So can you imagine that this is why Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is calling Judah out of name? Because if it starts with the head tribe of them getting it the worst, what do you think the trickle-down effect is it to the other tribes? That's why this man, calling himself self-proclaimed white man, being pure, and that's why he put his image out there as being the Most High Son himself, because he's the pure, untouched, sinless one. That's what he wants you to think, man. And that's why it's so asinine for me to even say it like that. But that's literally what the world believes. And us, the hopeful elect, as well as a body of believers, that subscribe to the elders and the apostles and the prophets, the teachers, we understand why this man wants to try to hide himself from the amount of judgment that is going to come down on him. This is Ezekiel 25 and 13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai power, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom. So the creator of the whole universe has it out for you, man. The creator of the whole universe calls you out by name. He called you out of your name, how bad you're going to get it. Continuing, verse 13, and will cut off man and beast from it. And I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. So this man is going to be taken out violently. Just like the scriptures say, violent, the city was established. Violence is going to fall, roughly paraphrasing. This is verse 14. You know what? I'm going to come back to that. Let me see. I'm trying to remember how this is worded. That was a scripture that popped up. It's good. I'm gonna see if it comes to me the right wording, because I know it and it's on the top of my head, but I'm gonna have to circle back to that. But I'm going to get this one in the meantime because, this proves the points as well. This is at Matthew 11 and 12. These are the words of Yahweh Shai. Matthew 11 and 12. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. Who is the violent? Who is the bloody man? That's Esau, Edom, man. These other, as well as these other heathen nations. Don't think that what I'm saying doesn't apply to them. But ultimately, the only thing that's different between the Edomite and the other heathen nations is that Esau, Edom is going to ultimately get completely destroyed, taken out from the equation. But these other heathen nations in the kingdom of heaven, after the judgment comes and Yahweh Shai establishes the throne of David, the throne of Yahweh Shai, the 144,000, then this man ultimately is going to be taken out, man. This man is going to be, but as well as you have to think of his wicked spirit is going to come on these other nations. So it's not like they're going to be to the extreme, but it just means that they are going to go off. So that rebellious spirit that Esau has in him is going to ultimately need to be checked in these other nations. But that is after the 1,000 years of him serving captivity, and then at the end of that 1,000 years on the second, no, I'm just speaking as a man, but at the end of the 1,000 years, his ass is going in the flame. Who knows? We may have a ceremony first. We may, after the 1,000 years comes, we may throw the fucking clock in their face, and have a big ceremony. All the whole world is gonna have a partake of front row seats to this man getting destroyed, and that could be it, man. Who knows? The Lord, Jake likes to show out and have a party around certain events, so it's going to be a celebration when Esau, Edom gets completely destroyed, So I'm going to get another scripture because this is something that you must really understand, that the Lord does not love everybody. The Lord does not love you just because you got melanin either. Just because you're an Israelite, you have to understand that, just because you are an Israelite, you're ultimately going to receive salvation. That's true. But you want to receive salvation on the first go around. But me saying that the Lord doesn't love everybody means he doesn't have the same love for the heathen nations as he does an Israelite. And that's point blank, period. And I can prove it with this scripture right here. This is Malachi 3 and verse 6, because this is a message of hope to the Israelites. This is Malachi 3 and 6. For I am the Lord Yahweh, I change not. Therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed, because it is a promise to Abraham, unto Isaac, unto Jacob, that we are going to be as the sand of the sea, the stars of the sky. So how can the Lord go back on a promise when we're going to be told that we're going to be at that number? Well, that number can only come in the kingdom of heaven. Obviously, there's a lot of Israelites in the world now, but that true blessing of that covenant being established forever, of us never sinning, is when we get into the second covenant with those new sinless bodies. This is verse 7. Even from the days of your fathers, ye are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return. That means the Lord is only calling people that have been with him in the first place. That's why it says, return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? And that's just Jake, man. Jake being hard-headed. Jake knows his spirit is connected to the Bible. Jake knows that there's prophets on the street, especially nowadays, 2020 motherfucking 5. Jake don't know about the Hebrew Israelites? My ass, man. We just talked to an Israelite, or a Jake, last camp, man, that knew about the Israelites and wanted to come up all fucking, all talking all smart, man, when Jake didn't know a fucking thing, but couldn't shut his mouth long enough to get the truth, man. So we had to literally, at the end of the day, dismiss him, because we're not there to debate. We're not there to go back and forth about what your beliefs are, what your doctrine is, what religion you follow, and what's different about that Christianity than this Christianity. We're not there for that. We're here to lecture. We're not here to get lectured. So again, if Jake won't shut his fucking mouth in front of the prophets, but he'll shut his fucking mouth in front of some college professor talking about we, or they, them, it different fucking pronouns in a university, man. So that's why this world is upside down, and ultimately that's why we can only depend on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai in these last days, because this Jake Esau Edom, he's gonna come hard. He's already getting the laws. Antifa just got put as a terrorist organization, an errorist. So what do you think can happen at the next day to any organization that goes against his motives? You know, and that's just small potatoes, man. That's just an example of what they can do to an organization overnight. And do you not think that they're going to do that to those that teach the Bible? That's why Jake needs to count the cost, man, and be prepared to be persecuted in these days ahead, because that is something that comes with being a believer and a follower of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai in these last days. So Lord willing, that this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rakach Wadash, and double honors to the beloved elders, once again, and the apostles at Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. You know, keep pushing, keep persevering, and make sure you brothers are speaking in code. Till next time, Shalom.